lottery was sold to the state as an enhancement to education. However, the reality is the money has been used to fund other state projects. What will you do to ensure that the education is properly funded so that our children are prepared to compete nationally and internationally?
It's an excellent question and an issue that I am very passionate about and will go up to Tallahassee to address. The issue is more and more local governments have to pay for education instead of the money coming out of Tallahassee. In fact, at our local level, when it used to be, when we used to pay only about 34% or so, we would fund education, whereas 60% would come from the state legislature, come from the state, and then about 9 or more percent would come from the federal government. That has actually switched, where now local government is paying up to 60% in taxes funding education, and 30% or so is coming from Tallahassee. And that's because they are not efficiently appropriating the funds, making it a line item for education and adequately funding education. We need to put our priorities first, which is making education available and making sure that we are holding our legislators accountable, and you can hold me accountable to do that, to make education fair and accessible to all of our children here in the state of Florida. Thank you.
Well, education and the state of our economy are so closely linked because the money for education is paid for primarily by, or largely by property taxes. So we have got to focus on building our economy, diversifying our economy, and getting our property values back up so that we then have more money available. But in the short run, we need to look at where the money is spent. And I would say that we need to make sure there's more money going to the kids in the classrooms than to the adults that are in the administrative offices. So we need to look at where those dollars go and make sure that we're spending them efficiently and for the right educational goals.
Well, the displacement of regular education dollars by lottery dollars was one of the things that I heard a lot about when I was elected in 1994. Lottery went into place in 1986, and for the first several years that it was in effect, it did displace regular education dollars. So in about 1997, we decided to do something about it, and we decided to do something with the lottery dollars that were separate and distinct. And that is a little program called Bright Future Scholarships. And through Bright Future Scholarships, which we adopted in 1997, and which I was one of the sponsors of, we put over 1 million Florida high school graduates through college, paid their tuition, paid their room and board, and all they were expected to do was have a B average and a certain SAT score. And they changed that a little bit through the years. But we did take those lottery dollars and we did something extra with them as opposed to just putting them into public schools to displace regular dollars.
All right, here's a very timely question and very straightforward and simple in its nature. What is your position on drilling for oil off the coast of Florida? We'll begin with you, Dan.
Yeah, that's an easy question for me to answer because I've been very consistent in this position since the beginning. I have not been comfortable, nor am I comfortable now with the ability to drill within 3 to 10 miles of the Florida beaches in a safe and efficient manner, and I do not support it.
On April the 23rd, 2009, when I announced my candidacy for the Senate again, one of the reasons that I cited for running again was the bill that had been passed the week before by the Florida House of Representatives to allow oil drilling within 3 miles of our beaches. I was opposed to it then, and I'm opposed to it now, and I will be opposed to it as long as I'm in the Florida Senate. I passed the last legislation in 1996, which took some old leases that dated back to the 50s, established a very high bond in order to be able to drill on it, and led to the state to be able to buy those leases back from the Coastal Petroleum Company to rid us of the possibility of drilling for oil in state water. I think it's wrong. In Pinellas County, which is a large part of this district, 70,000 people depend on our tourism industry for their livelihoods. What happened and almost happened this summer would decimate the livelihoods of many families.
I think this is definitely the thing that we all agree on up here. I do not agree that we should drill off of our coasts. I think this is something that shouldn't even be a discussion. We need to attract tourists. Tourism dollars bring millions of dollars into the state of Florida. It helps small businesses. It helps all of us here. And we want beaches that are safe. We want beaches that are clean. I've been very consistent on this issue. I believe not only should we not drill, but we should also put our resources and those types of things for the environment that will help create jobs, renewable energy, those types of things. So I passionately support the issue of not drilling, and they try to tell you that we're going to make money, but the bottom line is it would be 10 to 20 years before we really see any type of result in terms of any economic gain, and it's just not worth it. The risks are not there. I would have said it before the oil disaster, and I'm obviously saying it afterwards.
All right, now some of the questions that you all have been kind enough to write down for us, and thank you all for participating once again. Let's see, let's begin with Dana, so we're back to Jack. Please talk about your position on light rail and the rationale behind your position. That is
I support mass transit. I think mass transit is very important to our future in Central Florida with the tourism-based economy that we have. It starts at Disney World and comes to beaches in Pinellas County. And I think it's important to have an integrated system that includes the rapid transit from Orlando to Tampa, and then includes some interconnections once it gets over here. What I do have a little concern about is one county going in its own direction. I think that this is the kind of thing that we need to do as a Bay Area. Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, Pasco County need to be involved all together and do an integrated program that affects all of us.
I support the light rail. I believe it's very important. Not only does it bring jobs to the community, but also provides access for individuals to get to work. I know it's very difficult if you don't have a car in the area to really get back and forth, to go to school, to go to your place of work, and those individuals that don't have access to vehicles. This would be a wonderful opportunity. I do think that the county should work in concert with each other, and it should provide for opportunities for those who live in more rural areas to come work in the cities, and it would be a wonderful opportunity, and I do support it.
So I stand alone because I am the only one up here that strongly opposes the transit tax. I think that raising taxes in the middle of a recession is a very, very bad idea. And to raise taxes by 14% is a terrible idea. As I said earlier, I have been walking this district door to door in affluent neighborhoods like this one, and in neighborhoods south of Gandy where people are really struggling, working 2 and 3 jobs. And people, by and large, do not want this. We can't afford it, and I believe it is highly irresponsible of our government to be putting us in a position where we might raise taxes on people who are not equipped to pay the increase.
Strong schools drive prosperity and strong property values, yet the state legislature seems to make great schools second. What will you do to make our schools great?
We've done a lot of schools, I speak about Pinellas County, we've done a lot of things to make our schools great. One of the things we've done is we've added very technical colleges to all of our high schools. The goal is to have a technical institute in all of our high schools, so you have 2 tracks to allow students who want to go into the technical field to do that. Those that want to go into higher education, they can do that as well. We've done many other great things. For example, I just came from a workshop today where we're talking about working on our schools, our K-8 fundamental schools. We're trying to add more fundamental schools in North County and Mid-County. We're looking at those types of things like our charter schools, all those types of things that give students accessibility, not only accessibility to the public school system, but a good education with quality teachers and teacher accountability. So we're on our way moving forward, and I know know, as being in Tallahassee, we'll have to deal with that issue. The federal government has put down lots of stringent laws for us to follow. So things are going well, though. They are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, we are in a wonderful position here in Hillsborough County because we've just been given the Gates Foundation grant that will allow us to take our educational system to the next level. And I believe that the Gates grant that we now have in place and are starting to implement is going to make Hillsborough County a true model for the entire state of Florida in educational excellence. And in terms of how do we make our schools great, it's got to be the focus. You know, we've got to look at accountability in our school system, and we have to be able to reward excellent teachers for teaching well. In addition, I would just add that I am a very strong supporter and advocate for school choice so that we can empower parents to make the best educational decisions for their children. Because one size doesn't fit all. So we've got charter schools, home schools, career academies, and all sorts of wonderful ways that we can educate our children. And to empower the parents to make those decisions is critically important.
Well, it's a several-pronged answer. First of all, we need to support and put in the maximum amount of resources into public education that we can. As a majority leader in the Florida Senate in 1999 and 2000, one of those years I remember going down to the House of Representatives to try to close out the budget negotiation. I remember the Senate during that year traded 3 substantive bills that the House wanted in return for our position on education in the budget to put a maximum amount of dollars into our school system. So we need dollars. Second thing we need is accountability. I supported the first major accountability measures that were put into place when Jim Bush became governor. So you need a combination of resources and accountability, but I still support local control of our schools. I think that there was a kind of an unfortunate attempt this year to kind of take all the control of our schools and take it to Tallahassee, and I do not support that.
Since we are on education role, and we were just talking mostly about secondary education, this question deals with higher education. How, sent to our state capital, would you protect the students of Florida from skyrocketing tuition in our colleges and universities? And we're going to begin with Dana and come to Jack.
Yes, I actually just read an article about this the last couple of days in the St. Pete Times, and apparently Florida is about $3,000 below the national average on our educational tuition. So, you know, it's a difficult decision. I think we've got to look at where the money is going in our state college system, but we also are going to need to make sure that we are charging what our education is worth, because otherwise we are subsidizing that heavily at the state level. So we just need to look carefully at where the money's going, where it's coming from, and make smart fiscal decisions there. It's a very tough question, and I'm certainly not an expert in that area. And I wanted to fix one thing in my last 15 seconds. Jack Latvala supports good transit, but he does not support the tax.
Well, I got to correct you one more time. I didn't say I supported the tax, or I didn't say I didn't support the tax. As far as higher education is concerned, I think we have some very definite challenges in our higher education system in Florida. I'm not an expert on higher education. I'm not an expert on every subject. I've been out of it a little while, but I think that our tuition is not abnormally high. I think that, frankly, our kids probably get a bargain in our state colleges. We have right